These are really great days for us, the children of the sun. Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. For the healings are taking place, and no one can hide from the rays of Rᴇʟ. No matter if they run back up into their caves, it is now much too late. The workings of Mother Nature to heal this world has come after the 6,000 years of bloodshed, killing, and lies. Now the devil is finally being exposed, that man of sin, Nanar's children. The Mu'adwamu, the Adamites, the Muknatu, the Canaanites, and Pa Muk'anu, the Canaanites. Yes, these are those times, and most of them don't even know what is meant by Matthew 24, verse 40. There shall be two in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken and the other left. One is taken, one is left behind. And in verse 42, you see when Nanar will return. Quote, watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. And in verse 43, you see they don't know. Quote, but know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what hour, but know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Verse 44, therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Why? Because of John 8:44, they are of their father the devil. He was a liar from the beginning, Genesis 2:16-17. This Elohim of Yahweh of the Elohim lied to Adam, the ruddy race. He said if they ate of it, that same daylight hour, or yom, between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m., that they would surely die. And Genesis 3:3, yet they did eat and touch it, and they did not die that day. Genesis 3:6. And they transformed into Elohim, but they did not die. So this Yahweh Elohim, Lord God, lied to Adam, just as Jesus said he did in John 8:44. That was the devil, not the serpent, Genesis 3:1, who told them the truth, that Jesus knew about the demonic dominion, as today it's known as democracy, demonized, a demonstration of rule founded in the south, or hell down there. Now look up, demodulation, or demodulation. Radio, the recovery at the receiver of a signal that has been modulated on a carrier wave, the same as a cell, as in cage, cell phone. Revelations 18:2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Cage, the same cell phone of Yahweh in Exodus 25:10-22. How the Lord communes with them from Job 9:9. Kamah, Kamah, Pleiades. So these are great days. All are waiting to hear the final trumpet blown by Raphael, the call, the tone. Why? Because out of each Kakasu, one is now a hybrid with those silver with black dots in their eyes. Look again, you will notice them as Matthew 24:40-41. Then shall be two in the field, the one should be taken and the other left. Two women should be grinding at the mill, one should be taken and the other left. There are two of them. One is a hybrid with those eyes. Hebrews 1:13, Genesis 3:17, 2 Chronicles 16:9. Who is it that runs to and fro? Job 2:2, Satan. So their eye, or the evil eyes, Quran 20:102. These are the children. One out of the two of them has those eyes, not blue, green, or hazel. No, these are silver with a black dot. They will hear that sound blown by the Rephaim, Genesis 14:5, and the Anakim, giants, who came to Ta'ah, earth, and lived in the land of Nod, and mixed also with the Canaanites, Genesis 14:13, and became the Hebrews of Abram. They will be found amongst each of the newfound nations of Caucasus, in each religion, acting without knowing who or what they really are by nature. And then when that ram's horn or the call of the Baphomet is sounded, one out of two Caucasus would transform into flesh eaters, eating human flesh. They are right. Genesis 4:35, Revelations 19:16-21, 1 Enoch 7:1-14, Genesis 6:1-15. So that is why they love meat, flesh. Their holy city is called Bethlehem. Genesis 35:19, the house of bread and flesh, or flesh. So, most have no idea why they put on so many zombie cinemas, or Sᴛᴜᴅᴏ, and so much on flesh-eating ghosts, ETs. It is to waken the inner voice in those demon seeds. And they eat flesh with each meal. So you live in the days of the final call, but it's not our final call. It's their end of 6,000 years dominion, Genesis 1:26. Their rule ended 2000 AD. As I said, most don't know. Why? Because they have been trained to walk by faith, blind faith. Do not investigate what the Bible or the Quran really says from whom and why. So they live in ignorance, day by day, thinking they are safe. Yet they are not. Nothing can save them now. Their horn, the shofar, cannot affect a Nagaru unless they sold their soul to Pakakasu, or mix their blood and have their genes in them by genetic kiss, exchange of body fluids, and many who are very light-skinned, who are inclined to that side of their DNA, can pretend to be a black leader, but inside, Matthew 7:15, beware of the false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Deuteronomy 13:3, in part, thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams. Jeremiah 23:16, thus saith the Lord of hosts, hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of the Lord. Matthew 24:4-5. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Verse 11, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. Many come to our people as black leaders while they keep you in blind faith, false belief of others' religions, or lead you in gangs or militant groups of all kinds, religious or political. They lead you, the darker to the slaughter, or use you to keep you in blindness, spookism, unreal hopes of salvation, things they never can prove or show facts. Always trust them. They talk, speak, preach, but avoid being questioned. They are wolves in sheep's clothing, blind leading the blind. They talk all this blackness, but over the years never get any real things done for all Nagaru, only themselves. They live good, while those dark-skinned who follow them stay the same. They surround themselves with light-skinned Negroes to make the next leader of the group. Truth is truth. Don't believe me? Check it out. Let my words be known. Pan Yanun. You have two columns. One starts with Elohim, Genesis 5:2. Adam and Eve, sons and daughters, monks, nuns, Genesis 5:4. The other side, Anahim, Genesis 4:17. Cain, Awan, sons, daughters, the son Enoch, Genesis 4:17-24. Genesis 5:2, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Genesis 4:17. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. Genesis 5:4. And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. Genesis 4:17-24. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adam and Adah, bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in the tents, and of such have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of all, such as handle the harps and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah, and Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my heart. If Cain should be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. First book of Enoch, chapter 7. The priests of Anan, or Cain, were called Guru Gu, means dark. The priests of Canaan, Cain, were called Guru. Gu means dark, and Ru means light. The mark in Genesis was the ancient symbol of svasti, or the swastika, the cross, means well-being in Sanskrit. The wife of Cain, Awan, was his half-sister, the daughter of Chatach, or Nanar, from the land of Hebrew Strong's 5113, Nod. So the males of Enoch's seed wore a mark on their forehead, a mark, Genesis 4:15. So Cain had this red mark on his face. It was of blood originally. Nowadays, gurus only put a red dot where the third eye seat is on the forehead. but it was of blood to protect his half-breed children from the Anakim or the Anunnaki of the 200 Gigi, who were the flesh eaters. So they put a blood dot on their forehead as a mark not to kill and eat. Therefore, they were the first hunters, Genesis 4:22, a mighty hunter who used weapons of brass and iron, Tubal Cain, as you read Genesis 4:1. The real father of Canaan, Cain, was not Adam. Adam had sex with Eve, Genesis 4:1. Yet if you reread this verse, you will see that she got a man-child from the Yahweh, or the Lord. That was Nanah, or Chatah. Hebrew Strong's 24:3, meaning sin, sinful, called in Akkadian, Sin, son of Enlil, Elul. So Awan was Cain's half-sister, being both had the same father, Nanah. Adamites on one side, Cainites on the other side. Out of the Adamites came the monks and the nuns, and the cross that you would probably recognize most Celtics called the Iron Cross. Enoch, Genesis 5:18-23. Out of that came Christ, or Pope. Out of the Cainites came the Gurus, symbol of the swastika. Enoch, Genesis 4:16-18. Under him, Krishna. Under him, the Dalai Lama. Genesis 5:18-23. As Jared lived 162 years, he begat Enoch. And Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Genesis 4:16-18. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore an Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of that city after the name of his sons, Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. Religions. The mark of the beast affects all those of Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and Hebrewism, Christism, and Mohammedism. These are the children of the Asiatic races, which include Semitic, who mixed in as Zoroastrians. Do not. That's it.
And our update for today, number one, when the 300 Igigi came, 2/3 of the Igigi came to Earth. 200 of them actually came to Earth and had children. What happened to the remaining 100 Igigi? They stayed in the skies, yet they did not tell Anu what the other 200 were doing, so they were punished. Their punishment was to stay here in the earth, yet as spirits, they never incarnate physically. 2, when people go to church and the preacher is praying for a Holy Spirit, they do not understand that something holy doesn't necessarily mean good or godly. It is something that is pure as in completely. So Holy Spirit means pure spirit. This spirit can be benevolent or malevolent. The 100 Igigi came down as specters that inhabit the earth. They have no human counterpart. They only hear as religious link to God as satire, Aᴜᴜ, Baphomet. 3. Now you have all of these shows about ghosts, this and that, paranormal, this and that, and people speak being scratched or hear growling or complain of being bitten. And when they show the bite marks, they do not look like the bite from a human being's mouth. They are from Baphomet. In Quran 53, chapter 53, verse 19, it speaks of the god Osiris, which when properly translated would say, the Lord of Cyrus is a shaggy. Cyrus comes from the Arabic word for sha'ari, meaning hairy, describing the star. It is the same word in the Hebrew for Mount Seir, which also means shaggy, it being covered with fur. In Acts chapter 2, verse 2, it speaks about cloven flames appearing on the heads of the people who were at the day of Pentecost, and they spoke in various tongues. A cloven hoof is associated with animals and have cloven tongue and have cloven hooves. Excuse me. This speaking in tongues still happens in churches. What people still do not understand is they are still being possessed by pure spirits that are not holy. If you see a spirit, you test that spirit. If a spirit has you foaming from your mouth or is throwing you around, how could that be something good? Isn't the Holy Spirit supposed to comfort you? Every Sunday, these spirits are multiplied in the churches, so 100 pure spirits become 100,000 spirits. When you are negative or do something disagreeable, these spirits also can multiply and can be transferred to people by touch. Do you remember the movie Fᴏᴏ with Denzel Washington, where the spirit of Aᴜᴅ was jumping from person to person? These people were obviously open, and he was not able to get inside Denzel Washington's character, although he tried by touching him. So he taught him, just as the devil provokes people today to get you angry, which these specters and disembodied spirits feed off of. They took this from the concept from the practice of sending the scapegoat of the Bible into the wilderness to carry away the sins of the people. Anyone who came in contact with this goat would get the disagreeable spirits as well. During the time of Jesus, there was a bunch of demons that were driven into pigs. They were called legions. Tağokum.
Comments, questions, discuss words, rereads.
My question is from the lesson. I'm not sure if you noticed, everybody ever said anything about it, but when they do sound that tone for the cockasoo with the silver eyes and black dot, and they turn into the flesh eaters, do you think they're gonna like destroy themselves or like eat themselves out of existence, or like what do you think is gonna happen with them?
Well, when the tone sounds, that's the sound for the great feast. So we would be best not to be here for it. When Raphael comes with the shahar or the horn to make the tone, it's not just they won't just get awakened, but they're coming with a group of beings ready to feast on human flesh.
So those beings are also going to be eating the ones that turned into the flesh eaters as well?
No, they'll be here eating people, not because but the ones with the silver eyes and the black dots will be eating also with the overlords that are coming down to feast on people.
If you go back to Savior's Day, I think it was 96, maybe even 95. Kind of bad. And Neil was speaking at the, used to be a gazebo there before Ed Food was built. Where the children skated, and we had a small podium and gazebo and platform where Doc taught from. But anyway, he taught in that area that Savior's Day. And I think it's like 4-part tapes. There's a 4-part series of tapes that came out that year. So if anyone looks up, if you look up in the meeting, anyone who has it, you want to listen to it. Pᴏ Tğᴇ spoke then about the subject matter. So this isn't new. He was saying that whenever a vortex opens, 2 things happen. One thing may exit through it, and something else will be entered from it. And he said that there are beings who already own this planet, and they purchase planets and things like that, like how you do in real estate. You may have purchased a piece of property that you plan on rehabbing, and all of a sudden you realize there's an infestation. So you have to clear that infestation of insects or whatever. In this case, you're dealing with beings who they dealt with it with disease and things like that, and then there's the others who are going to eat. And that's in that Savior's Day class, Pᴏ Tğᴇ was talking about how they were 8 to 9 feet tall. He said they can run, they can top out some unrealistic amount of speed that we can't run from. That was the point. I don't remember specifically, but it was somewhere like 60, 70 miles an hour they can top out, running on foot. And he even said how they don't have to turn their body to change directions. Like when you run and decide you want to go the other way, you have to turn your face that way and go that way. So they don't have to do that. They would simply just turn their head and come back the other way. And he had spoke about how he had said he had war with them many times. He said, so your blocks and your 9mm is not going to be effective on them. He said, so you can get that premise out of your mind that you're going to war with them. He said we weren't built that way. He said you would have to be modified to even remotely fight them. He said instead there's chemical agents that will be more effective. He said one of the basic ingredients was ammonia. He said, but I'm not going to tell you the rest. Because you know us when we sitting around, somebody try to drink you. You know how we are. So he said, I'm not going to tell you the rest of it. He said, but we're waiting on vortexes to open so we can leave. He said the difference is they came here, staked their claim, set everything into motion as ownership, as owners of this rock, and then they're leaving. He said, but they're going to return on one of those openings of the vortexes. He said, we don't want to be here when that happens. You know, he said, because that was well before they took Doc and course, well before now. He's been warning us for decades as in the increments in which we could have accepted it. But like you said, now we're at a time. He had said that in the visit that myself and Brother Mac was at. He said, y'all weren't supposed to be here for all of this. He said, instead, you couldn't get it together. You couldn't love each other enough. You couldn't get past the separation enough to get you out of time. So now we're in it. We're in the middle of it. He said, so when he told the food, stock canned goods, stock water, protection, ammunition, all those things, he said that's because we were here. You know, had we got them out, got over our problems with each other, and just got them out, we wouldn't have to be concerned with any of these events. He said, but now we're in it. Now we need these things to survive long enough so they're free. And he said even then, when he goes where he's going, a lot of us won't even be healthy enough to follow. You know, he said, you're not going to Jim Jones me, where I tell you where I'm going, and you know how we do. We wouldn't move on Tamarack, we would move into Eaton, we wouldn't live upstate, we would move right around there. He said, so y'all try to find where I'm at. He said, I'm not going to tell you, because that's what you'll do. You'll try to move near, but because of your health, because he said, I will have to groom you on how to survive wherever we go. He said, because of health conditions, a lot of you all wouldn't make it. He said, then they'll say, I'm Jim Jones. I don't lay at you somewhere, and all of a sudden I'm the cause of all these people losing their lives. He said, I'm just raising the point that through many degrees, and you know, we were in several schools when Doc talked about this subject matter, not so much in depth. Now he has to go straight to it so we can realize the severity of it. A lot of times, he said, what we do when he gives us a directive, he said, I give it in a manner that if you just do it, you good. Turn left. Have you turn left and just turn left, we'll be just fine. But we want to know why. Why left? And left relative to what? Your left and my left. Stage left or house left. You know, so he said when you do that, you force me to explain. And when I explain it to you, I explain it to them. And because we don't get it or don't do it, he's forced to explain. So it may seem like this is a new level of information that Dr. bringing, but he's actually warning us as far back as I can bear witness, and maybe some of the elders predating my time here can even expound even further. But you know, that was the first time I saw it when he came out that night, as you had known and taught it then. Anybody was there? He taught right outside the T, came out in all white, hair part up the middle, draped down. Power went out, and it was like the mic was still on. I remember that? Power, meaning the mic and the lights went out. And anyone else, what did you see and hear? I saw his eyes and heard his voice. This is, when Doc teaches, of course, you know, a few thousand people just happen to stumble over here. And I'm trying to tell you, you can hear him as if the mic was still on, and you can see his eyes over there in the distance from the dark. You know, chest was out to hit you. Everybody's been around him know fluctuations and things like that. And he kicked it then. He gave us fair warning then. He said, the trip we want to take, we better make it. He said, if we don't, he said, they're already in there right. that same saving day, he says they're en route back. And when they come through, we don't want to be here when that happens. So, again, I don't know, the question was asked, how right does a man have to be before you accept his divinity? He's revisiting this same point. And like he was saying about the, I don't know if we all forgot that reason there will be two, one taken and one left behind. He said because, remember he said for every other cockasoo, they will respond to that trumpet, to that tone. He said, and they would turn and eat the other. And that's why there was two, and then there'll be one. So one will be taken and one will be left behind. So the one that turns will turn and eat the other. That's not. One is going to become predator, the other one's going to become food. So we just don't want to be like that. And you see it already. I mean, the bath salts. It's like all of a sudden everybody agreed we're going to stop eating bath salt. There's no more bath salt related cannibalism since the guy down in Florida. Yeah. What happened? Everybody just agreed we're not going to eat bath salt anymore. That's correct. The reality is that cat turned around and just ate him. And it's been happening all over the country. If you Google that subject matter, you'll find these incidents all over the country and all over the world. It just is what it is. Doc said the movies, the music, the tones, he said their turning on was already preceded in these people from generations ago. That's what Doc was saying. Those beings came here, planted their seeds, and then they left. And then you grew, those beings, descendants of them, grew, and is just sitting there, dormant, just as the genes of the Natharu sit dormant in us. Doc came with those tones to turn it on in you, and now they're presenting those tones to turn it in their seed as well.
Okay, you answered my question about the one in the garden and one taken up. Okay, go back to the zombies. You said about this horn of noise. Would the whole world be able to hear it, or just them? Or
when that horn sounds, we don't want to be here. Period. So we won't want to be here to hear it, or the sound, or the tone. But the tone is just the vibration, whatever that vibration is, it's going to awaken up those genes inside of those beings that are already here to let them know it's time to feast. Like the master teacher said, they're already waking up. That's why you're having these different cases where people are eating other people already. Different movies like Midnight Meat Train and all these movies with blood and gore and eating people and stuff like that. These are movies that are awakening things in them already. That's why you're having that right now. So it's not that we would hear the tone, we don't want to be here for the tone, because when that tone sounds, it's not just the people, the ones here that will be turning and eating, but you're going to have a host of beings coming from outside this atmosphere coming down for the feast. So we don't want to be here for it at all. That's the
just to say we are here, because I'm just saying, I'm just being realistic. I don't care about what everybody say I'm only grown, because it's been 11 years, so whatever. Just to say we are here, you said the way these beings are, they can run and do all this. Can they swim? So they able to swim, so we couldn't even run out to the water and then be able to swim and get you.
Doc said
They laughing, but
if we don't
get him out, we gonna be here. So I mean, just realistic. I want to know how to protect myself.
You won't.
You won't be able to protect yourself.
Okay.
Doc said you won't stand a chance.
Okay.
We're here, your food, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. So that let us know we got to get him out, right?
That's it. That's it. We got to keep on out. That's right.
He said we wouldn't stand a chance. We don't complete what we're supposed to do. And to get back to the tones part, that's everything that they were doing. You got to go back to just prior updates. Doc said they're trying to create a substitute of themselves being on the menu for us being on the menu. So now it's okay. See, you couldn't afford to. They realized they were tricked. Doc said, you gotta remember this going back to Hitler, Madame Blavatsky, Full Society, choosing the Pleiadians, choosing Hitler as their contact to breed more food. Back in the day, it was the prophets, when they brought the covenant of circumcision and things like that to speed up production of the beings that they were farming. So throughout ages, the overlords have come back to check on production, to take a little sample, to feast, to eat, things like that. And in this day and time, I saw that one of the most recent contacts was Hitler. He was their man. He said, so when this Celtic in this day and time realized they had been tricked by their overlord with, Doc said when they were breeding them in Patmos, the process when they was breeding the food, they was pretty much creating filet mignon. You know how that goes, they put a little baby calf in a stall where it can't turn, it can't move forward, it can't move back, it can't turn around. And so the muscles atrophy so much it basically can fall the bone while they're alive. And they consider that a delicacy. Well, these beings, when they started breeding their food, they started breeding them in one of the caves, and then they moved them because they actually got to see us. Doc said they had to be moved, and that's how they ended up in Patmos, Cappadocia. And so they had to move them. Point is, he said they weren't supposed to taste meat. They weren't supposed to taste blood. So naturally, at some point they did, and that's when the pet/food kind of started running wild. So they have this thing of just eating meat, blood, people, it is what it is. That was considered a delicacy. Coming up poor, you thought, man, if I eat steak, I'll arrive. And Doc said, they kept you so poor eating the chitlins and eating the watermelon, things like that, it was hard to supplant. So they had to start giving you a couple of dollars so that you get a little more educated. Here, screw my daughter. So you can GK, genetically mix, take in the food, smoke their cigarettes, drink their drinks, all that was seasoning. Doc said they were seasoning the meat that way. They're chefs. You watch them on TV. They grab a little wine, they do a little so-and-so, and they do this to season the meat. All right? So once they realized they were actually on the menu of their own gods, they decided to try to, have you ever tried dark meat? So that was the whole point. Doc said the thing is they didn't have permission to take us unless we had lost our Ba'ah and accepted them as our overlords as well. So many have, by way of religion, by way of faith, and by way of just wilding out in the world, that now you do smell like them on the inside and the outside. You do sound like them, literally. We speak the tones of food. You know, if you were in a low-light condition and you were a predator that just eats chicken, so you can recognize chicken smell, you can recognize how a chicken sounds. Anything that sounds like that and smells like that, you turn and bite it. So this is what we're doing, and this is why the Nᴏᴜ is so important, the Nᴏᴜ, our language. Because Doc is trying to tell you, you better get off that frequency. You sound like the food. You smell like the food. And thanks to Nicki Minaj, you're starting to look like the food. All my organs. You get what I'm saying? So the skin lightening, the bleaching, the hair, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you are now chicken. They pulled a Jacob and Esau move. They supplanted us. You know, what were they doing? Laying on the beaches trying to get brown. They're referring to a white woman is curling her hair. They're sitting around trying to put on the veil of us while stupid Nagaru are actually trying to simulate food. You know, Doc said, keep it real. He said, if you tinted it, there was a time some sisters on the land got a hold of some peroxide and all kind of stuff. Doc said, oh, so you want to be a white woman? No, Doc, I just wanted to. He said, let me tell you something. If you lighten it to brown, any shade lighter than your natural tone, you want to be white. Excuse me, you want to be a Celtic. You know, so keep it 100, but you ain't realizing the gravity of what you're doing. You now look like the food. You now sound like the food. Due to all the toxicants, all the intoxicants that you're taking in, and it doesn't just mean alcohol, it's everything else, you now smell like it, which means you've been seasoned to taste like it. So for all intents and purposes, dark meat is on the menu. Meanwhile, what they just recently discovered, they said there's almost 24,000 inhabitable planets in this galaxy that can harbor Earth-like life. They're trying to get out of here. The elite amongst them are looking toward the stars to escape. And remember Doc said, Pleiadians made a deal with a few of the elitists of them to take them over to Goldilocks. They're getting out of here. They don't plan on being here. They listen to that Savior's Day when Doc said, you don't want to be here. We the ones not listening. They listen, they can't wait for Doc to say something new. When he told the sister who worked at St. Mary's in Athens back in 1999, said, take this, slip it in one of the top officials of the hospital, slip it in his coat. And the note said that the cure for AIDS and all diseases that plague the human body is found on the so-and-so chromosome. Naturally embedded in you. And go back to the science monitors and the medical journals that came out that following year. Big breakthrough. The human body possesses all that it needs to cure itself. Scientists are waiting for further information. Literally. Don't believe me, check it out. I just can't quote it, but you do your due diligence. They put it out, they said that. The doctor said, yeah, they're waiting for me to finish expounding. You know, he said, I'm just showing you how close they monitor everything we do. You know, so the point is you won't. There's no surviving this. Even if you do, they plan on serving you up as food for their profits.
You did it.
long time ago came down and put those genes and whatever into the Caucasus, and since we've mixed so much, you know, over the years, is it possible, do you think, for neutrinoids or even some Nagato to be able to beat some of those silver-eyed beings that will turn and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it even said in here, that's what he was saying, the whole analogy to the fall. You can bring yourself down enough where the spirits of those beings that reside here, remember those other 100 weren't allowed to come on the physical side, but they can affect you by way of the spirit. They can move in that way. Going way back to other jewels, when your countenance drops, that just means your colors change. If your colors change, that means your frequency changed. You can lower yourself to a frequency low enough that they can assimilate, and then they ride you back up to higher goals, at least they attempt to. And at that point, you can, remember the spirit is in the blood, so it's getting to the point that even through possession, you can turn into one.
Okay, so basically, anybody can be one of those flesh-eating beings, you know, if they allow themselves to get put back on the radar, basically.
Yeah, or just being possessed. You got the ones who are genetically, that's what they are. They are the descendants of those beings, and that's how they're going to respond to that tone. And then you have the Nagato who's mixed and bred or been raped for so many generations that you share enough DNA to align with those spirits to cause a similar effect themselves. That's when Doc said, stop touching people. There was a year, and it was rumored that so many people were going to come. And Doc had told us up on campus, said, stop shaking people's hands. He said, lock it in. So if you're on guard, and you have that brother you ain't seen in 15 years to pop up, he said, first thing they say, all the time, man, you look good. They have been out there and tore themselves apart. He says the first thing they say to us who stayed, man, look at you, boy, you look good, man, you don't change, do you? Man, let me get some of that. Let me get some of that. He said they literally mean, let me have some of that. He said those are spiritual vampires. Because that sigh of relief that they let out when they left the mission. Because everyone's seen somebody do it. They leave, and they go, I am so glad I ain't got to deal with that no more. You get what I'm saying? He said that. He said, thou with the body, leaving the body. And then all the years they existed in the world without it, they've become wanting in spirit. So they have to come back to a source, and the only source they know is Panabaryanun and those nearest. So they see it on you. You stay. You still radiate. They're drawn to you. Hey, boy, where you been, man? Let me get some of that. And that's what the doctor said, lock it in. That's it. It may be a fist bump. Maybe. Yeah, you know, he said don't engage because many will come that year to siphon off of us. Way back, I mean, this doctor kicking this as we could absorb it at the time for years. Any other questions? It's cold. It's toasted in here. But, you know, they say it's going to drop in the 20s tonight. Wind chill factor, we don't know what that's going to do to it. So just make sure y'all take care of yourselves accordingly. And, of course, no better way to warm up is with a nice, delicious meal that our sisters of the Orders of the Eastern Stars prepared. So please go see them, see the sisters in the back. There's new information and new things out. Be safe without hope.